Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Addiction Got a Minute. It is December 7th, Friday. It's getting a little crispy out there. We actually are starting to experience what we in New England call winter. There's this big storm moving up and we're getting all these warnings. And there's floods coming and all sorts of. Are you building that big boat in the backyard?
The Ark? Exists, man. It's out there. We just got to make our way out. It's out there. It sits in. You know that boat that they built? The guy that built that one. It's sitting in Tajman.
Yes.
Yeah. There's already like 2 lambs and 2 goats on there, so we can. We're almost there, man.
Oh, the Ark. Well,
yeah.
We have our own version, and that's my co-leader Michael Blanchard. Say good morning,
good morning,
Michael, baby.
How's everyone today? We're happy to be here.
Yeah, I'll say. There's been a lot going on. There's some really interesting things going on in the island as far as moving forward with the coalition, different people starting to communicate more openly about these challenges. By the way, that's the goal of the program, to lower the fence. So as you listen to Michael and I talk, I just want you to think in terms of being able to talk to your neighbor about the challenges that you're facing, whether it be with your children, yourself, loved ones, or friends. And open your heart to talking about it. It's not that you need to be an expert, you just need to have an open heart. The goal of this program is to share the resources that we're familiar with, whether it be at our local hospital, the substance use disorder team, or community services, the emergency services team. I mean, these are fantastic organizations that offer a great deal of support and a great deal of resources. And then you have folks who are also here, all the clinicians. There's over 60 independent clinicians on the vineyard. Michael and I are part of that crew. The recovery coaching program, please call. If you're the least bit interested, call and find out about that. We'll talk more about that. In addition to our lovely guest today, we have Linda Wannamaker.
Hi.
Linda, you're with Misty Meadows, right?
Yes, I am. I'm the therapeutic riding instructor at Misty Meadows. Rising Tide merged recently with them. Rising Tide had been in existence as a therapeutic riding facility on the island for 12 years, and Misty Meadows is a beautiful facility as well that we merged into, and I was very excited about it because we can now run our program that help people of all abilities and disabilities to use the valuable resources of horses as equine therapy.
Oh, yeah. We're going to focus on that today. And you can take your folder and lie it on your lap. Now
okay.
Your selfless self-promotion. I like that. Very good. Michael, you've got a lot to do with this. So
yes,
why don't you take it away.
I was on the Rising Tide board of directors as a non-horse person. Linda was the pictures are almost laughable. Well, they are laughable. She tried to teach me how to ride a horse, and I just wasn't doing good. My butt kept hitting the horse too hard. I was going to end up breaking my spine or something. I wasn't doing it right, but I had a lot of fun. And through the whole process with the merger, I ended up, right now I'm the interim, and maybe longer than interim, president of the board of Misty Meadows. And there's such potential in that place, and I think we're in a place right now where we're trying to look at 2019, and there's just so many things out there that you can do with horses, and the question is, what kinds of programs, how do you get to the community, how do you raise funds, because by definition, if you're going to use horses to help people that are in need, either they don't have the money financially, if you have kids with autism, or you have people with MS, or you have addicts or alcoholics, you're not dealing with a clientele of rich people who are coming just to ride horses on Saturdays. The idea is to provide services to people that don't have the ability to pay, that wouldn't have the ability to get services maybe any other way. And so we're trying to put programs together on how we can possibly do corporate retreats at the center. To help corporate teams, use an equine experience to help build their team. And we are looking at, the addiction community. At least I am. That's how I got involved in it. I was sitting out there as a recovering alcoholic, And I know firsthand that sometimes people aren't the best way to make that additional breakthrough to a person who is addicted or depressed. Linda has some really cool stories, I'll let you tell them, of people who were totally shut down, kids that come walking into the center and suddenly they start talking, they make a connection, they become alive. And what is that magic? And if you can harness that and use it with as many people as you can, it's really a beautiful thing.
Let me jump in.
So,
this is really a fantastic example. My wife and I had the opportunity to go to a wedding in Lexington, Kentucky a few months ago. One of my cousin's daughters got married to a wonderful British man, and it was fantastic. Because of the school they go to, they were right in the middle of a horse country. And we got the opportunity to tour some of the stables, some of those fantastic stables. My wife walks up to the horses, and one of them stuck his head out at her and sort of like gave some sort of, come over here, look. And Jenny walked right over and started petting it, and this thing fell in love with my wife in a heartbeat. The two of them had this connection. And I was asking the tour leader about this, and he goes, no, that's something about these horses. There's something about it. There's the opportunity for connection. And it's this connection which is the therapeutic element which you guys took a hold of. So, yeah, take it from there. How is it that you got involved? What happened that you suddenly found yourself on a horse?
I just like being there. I'm not sure how else to say it. When you go to the stables, it's calm, it's peaceful. And then the staff that's there, you have, it's their life. I mean, when you look at Linda, I mean, it's different than a regular job, right?
Yes.
I mean, when I think about Sarah McKay, who's the executive director, or Linda, they're there all the time. I mean, it's their life. It's not like you go and punch out 9 to 5. If it's Saturday, it's Sunday, they're there, they're with the horses. We've got, Susie and Emily and the other folks that are there, they live there basically. And they dedicate their life to that. They just love being around horses so much. So it's not a typical job.
It's not a typical job. It's a passion, it's a lifestyle, it's a lifelong learning process. It's sharing what we learn, especially helping people that might have depression or are grieving or have anxiety. The horses pick up on all that. They can calm you down. They can make you aware of their presence if you're being a little bit anxious. And they're large. You don't want them to be upset with you. And you can reach into yourself and observe them. If you think they're beautiful, they're going to give you something back. I have worked with people with profound grief and PTSD, transgender people who suffer from isolation. That's the thing about being with the horses. It can be easier to be with them than be with people. If you feel isolated and you can pet that large animal and be in their presence, it's calming. There's so many studies that talk about the benefits, the therapeutic benefits. Physically, if you ride them, it's going to make you euphoric. It's something very different. Different than any other sport. The only sport in the Olympics that's done with an animal, to my knowledge. I do think they do have dog sledding, but that's a little bit different.
You've touched on two really important things. First of all, the connection. We in the industry have started to really wrap our arms around this philosophy. The opposite of addiction is connection.
Yeah.
There's the discussions about how people have a genetic predisposition towards getting dependent on a substance, and then the question of when you have twin studies or triplets or more, when only one or it's not universal. There's no guarantee that if you have this genetic predisposition, it's going to come crashing down on you. All these discussions are going on, and one of them is about this issue of connection. Connecting with people is most of what we talk about. We think about the relationships with friends and family, But you're talking about, as you said, this very large animal, the connection that there's something about them. There's something about horses which have forever this relationship
Yes.
with humans.
Yes.
There's this ability.
Yes.
There's a connection. And when you develop it or encourage it, they seem to want it. Am I right?
I think that the horses do want it, and part of the thing I've been thinking about and talked about it, I was recently invited to talk to Lesley University students about alternative therapies for mental health. And they use art and nature and music therapy, and they heard about equine therapy. And so I went to give a talk to the kids about that. And something that came to my mind is how horses have evolved with humans from being literally food in the prehistoric times, that they had to fear us and run away, which is why horses, are prey animals, and that's their first instinct is to flee. And then we had them evolved into being transportation for us, and then work horses and carrying things and doing things, and then moving into fighting our wars. Our wars have been won on backs of horses. Then they became recreation, and after they were war horses and then transportation and then automobiles came, they became recreation, and it put them at a very elite place where it's impossible to own one for most people. But I think horses have something inside of them that say, we're going to keep evolving so we can be around. And horses are now used for therapy, not only for physical therapy for people with disabilities, but for mental health therapy to provide those connections. And I believe that's why they're going to stay around. And that's why even though older horses that can't be physically used for hard riding, they have a purpose of just being a presence, a calm, a friend, a confidant to people in need.
Well, and if you give, there was when we did the calendar to try to raise money for Rising Tide before it merged, there was the story of, and I don't know how old the boy was, 6, 7 years old, autistic child who got on the back of a horse with the parents standing there and hugged the horse and yelled out, "Horse." That was the first word the child had ever spoken. And then when the horse moved, he yelled, "Go." The parents just broke down crying. So now the child had enough years to go by with dogs, with cats, and God knows whatever else, but chose not to speak until they got on the back of a horse. So what is that? That's kind of that's an example. So when we talk about connection, and then one of the funniest stories is it's funny, but it's not, was the transgender girl that came from the city. Mm-hmm. You should tell that story, but don't use the foul language that the girl used.
So she came with her mom, and her mom was very distraught, and she hadn't been able to connect with her child for a long time. Person was about 15 years old. Came out of the car all dressed in black with piercings and earrings and zippers and black skull cap. And I'm like, okay. And she says, I don't know why I'm here. And I said, well, do you like horses? Not really. I said, okay, so what I might do is ask you, any of these horses here in this field, do you connect with any of them? Anyone you think is pretty? She said, the black one. I said, of course. So we brought in the large black horse, and she realized that she was terrified because the horse was so big. And I said, I just want you to pet him, and then we'll take him away. And we spent the day with other horses, and at the end of the day, she actually said to me, can I ride? And that wasn't really part of what the experience was supposed to be, but I was thrilled and able to put her on the back of a horse. And when the horse started to move and I gave her the skills to be able to trot the horse, she yelled out with a big smile, "This is the best thing I've ever done."
That
and
bad
the mom,
word.
Yeah. And the mom couldn't believe the experience that her child had. And another one that I love, I think is real important, is we serve a community of people here on the island and elsewhere. I've worked with people who go to day programs because they are elderly people that might have disabilities. And one time I had a person come off a van in a wheelchair with another group of and this person was so despondent that I didn't think there was going to be any connection with the horses or the other part of the staff at all. And she looked up, she was probably in her 80s, and she saw the horses and she started to speak to her aide. She said, "Who's in charge here? Who's in charge?" And I said, "Well, I am." She goes, get me on the back of that horse. I was a member of the British Horse Society for years, and I know everything about horses. And the staff was just blown away. They said, this is Judy. She never talks. We didn't know anything about her. She has severe dementia, and frankly, she's not really nice to the staff. And Judy overheard that and said, I'm nice, I just don't like any of you. And then she said, but I like you, Linda, so help me get on the back of a horse. And so unfortunately, she did not have paperwork. She wasn't signed off by a doctor.
Yeah, yeah.
So she started to cry, and I said, look, when we're done, you're gonna come with me, and we're gonna take the saddle off the horse and you can brush. And she jumped up out of her wheelchair, and with the help of her aide, we walked into the barn. We started to take the saddles off the horse and groom. And her aide was distinctly a little worried about her and was hovering around her, touching her to make sure she was okay, because now she's on her feet, which she's mostly in the clouds in a wheelchair. And that Judy just pushed her aide off, said, get away from me, I know what I'm doing, I've got this. And to me, that is one of my more beautiful, touching stories, because the horses brought her out of dementia and back into who she really is.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool.
What an example of connectivity.
Yeah.
That gave me goosebumps. You see, that's a perfect example. And I'm going to use that example because it makes total sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Here you have somebody whose passion was, their life was all about. Mm-hmm. And then because of fate and the lack of opportunity, things turned the way they went. And here she was given, in this particular example, an equine connection. There are facilities like this around the country. You're not the only ones doing it.
Oh, sure.
One of the things that's very misleading to folks is they think you've got to be wealthy to participate. Quite to the opposite. And the other thing is thinking that they're flush with money. And that's quite the opposite. There were a number of things which happened through God winks and fate and opportunity that allowed this program to exist. But it needs to continue to exist. It's not going to continue on its own. There are fundraisers, there are opportunities to get involved, to be able to help it grow. And this is, I think it's critical that we reach out to everyone and let them know that you have the chance to play a significant role in the growth of this, whether it be for mental health, depression, identity issues, or be elderly and dementia, or be addiction. The connectivity that we're talking about can't be disputed. It certainly, the example is concrete.
Yeah, and they're getting into, so I think people have a misconception, because I did, maybe it's just me that had the misconception, is that horses aren't all just riding horses. There's equine assisted learning where you are next to a horse, and there's exercises that you can do through a facilitator to try to...
Oh, that example of
right?
brushing the horse.
Yeah, exactly.
She didn't need to ride it,
I
she
think,
just needed to be there.
Yeah, I think some people, if they think that when you go to the horse barn that the only therapy is you got to get on a horse and ride around, it's not, that's not the case, and that there are structured... There's equine-assisted psychotherapy. Yes. There are people that get licenses and certifications to do this kind of work. And I guess I'm still trying to learn, if you have a whole bunch of people that could benefit on the island, and if you're an addict or an alcoholic, if you have autism, if you have, how do we set it up? If you're going to work with the addiction counselors, for example, on the island, you have to have, the horse can't do it all by themselves. There has to be a connection with the therapists and with the people that will care for that individual on an ongoing basis. So I think part of what we've got to do in the future is build those alliances, because you're on the clinicians group. We have like 50 clinicians on the island, plus Martha's Vineyard Community Services. That could be a whole track that we could look at some point and say, let's get, and we did at one point. I think we had Charlie Silverstein, others came out and actually spent some time out at Misty Meadows to kind of learn a little bit about it. But we would want to do a formal program so that the patient or the client could benefit most from the experience by then going back for their therapy and their counseling sessions and stuff. So there's so much potential. And I want to just emphasize this one other point as the president on the board, is that the Kennys, when people go to Misty Meadows, and if you don't know where it is, it's right next to the Granary Gallery on Old County Road. in West Tisbury. If you walk into the place, expansive fields, horses, you have this amazing indoor arena that looks like it got flown in from Kentucky, right? And so I think people go in and they say, you know, oh my God, this is, you know, the place of the wealthy. But the reality, the way it happened is Jerry and Carol Kenny donated this property because they want to leave a legacy on the island. It's so important to them. They're getting older. I'm sorry. Don't get mad at me, Carol. And they want to leave a legacy. And it is so important to Carol especially to leave. She wants to have this thing mean something in terms of helping people on the island. That said, plop, you have this beautiful facility, but to run it, we need money. And if we don't develop a board of, I'm trying to develop a board of directors and a series of programs to get donations, and we're going to look at grant funding and other things, that if we don't have that operating amount that comes in, the program's not going to last, because we do not, we're not taking rich folks in to get lots of money. A child with autism doesn't have that ability to pay. And so if you don't have other funding sources to help pay for that, the program goes away. Horses cost like what, $10,000 a year?
$10,000 a year just to keep them.
Just for hay and all that other stuff.
And the horses at Misty Meadow are so well cared for. It's not bare bones at all. They have chiropractic. They have massage therapy. Most of those are donated.
Chiropractic?
Yes. Yes.
You
some
have
of
to
those,
see a horse laying on a table with a massage
see.
therapist. It's pretty cool.
you should come
I
over
want
and
to see
watch.
that chiropractor.
It's pretty tough. It's a hard job, but they are treated very well. There's nothing, no little idiosyncrasy that we question goes undetected.
You don't have one of those pools, do you?
We don't have a therapeutic pool.
There is a swimming pool there, but we haven't tried throwing a horse in there yet.
No. So it's a different kind of therapy. You know, equine therapy is for people. It's not actually for the horses, but like I want to emphasize how well they're taken care of. And they live in a beautiful natural environment, and anything that we suspect might be amiss is looked into extensively to keep them calm, kind, and they give back. That's why we do it. They give back 1,000-fold, and the Kennys know that. And I'm totally respect and believe in the legacy that the Kennys want to leave, because that's the same thing I would like to do with my life. And I also would like to be the person who might be someday, God forbid, in the wheelchair, in Windermere, in the nursing homes, that somebody says, let's bring them to the horse farm. Let them get out in nature. Let them brush the horses. Let them see demonstrations and get that spark of life back that when you're in a facility, a hospitalized facility, as beautiful as it is, you're still inside. And at Misty Meadows, these people can come out in their wheelchairs and still be out of the elements and warm and see wonderful demonstrations and be educated. I mean, we teach them things. We teach them parts of the horse. We teach them about horse behavior. We teach them about caring for a horse and food, medical things. So they are stimulated, and I think that's a great legacy to leave.
Well, and we're trying. So that's what we want to do now. I mean, there's two tracks that Misty Meadows could go on. One is we want it to become a premier therapeutic center. There's no reason. With Martha's Vineyard, there should be a way that we have to look at I hate to be the business person, but that's why I'm there. I'm not the horse person, but you have to have product lines. So if you bring a corporation in, they help provide the money so that you can pay for the people that can't pay. So you have like one product line there. You may have another one which is recreational riding, because the horses need exercise too.
Absolutely.
So you can't just have a therapeutic horse that just stands there while people get a therapeutic experience. They have to get exercise, so doing recreational, see, I learned some stuff.
Yeah, you did.
All right, so they go ride the horses on the recreational side, that brings in some income that way, and then you have the therapeutic side. So you want to build a program, and then you have to have the donations that come in that support it. If we can't do that and it doesn't happen, what's going to end up happening is that facility would just be sold off, and it could either be a private horse farm or it could be whatever, and I don't want that to happen. It's too amazing and a gift for this island. So
we're not going to let that happen.
No.
So Linda, how can people get in touch with Misty Meadows?
Okay, so you can either go to mvhorsecenter.org is our website, and our phone number there is 508-338-7198, and I do hope you'll call.
And you can certainly call us, whether it be me or Michael, and our
Right.
information is at the end of the show.
Right.
I really want to thank you so much for coming today.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
You've got a phenomenal program, and I really look forward to your input. Please, folks, give us feedback. The feedback we've been getting is wonderful. See, I'm not wearing my sweatshirt anymore today. And I'm sorry, I have a cold, so I need this tea. So please reach out to Michael or myself, and Michael's information is the trailer. How can they reach you, Michael?
Easiest is by email at mblanche601@mac.com, mac.com. That email address is the easiest.
And the easiest for me is howie@howiemarlin.com, which takes you to Decisions Counseling Services. Well, I really do appreciate your time. Linda, thank you so much. Michael,
it's just wonderful
as
to
always,
be here with you.
Had fun.
It was amazing
Next week,
that
we'll
we
be
actually
back.
pulled this off again. We didn't have a host when I got up this morning, although we had wanted Linda to come. On behalf of Linda and Michael and myself, we'll see you next time. If we all drip one drop of sanity back into the bucket of our society, we just might end up filling the pool enough to give the next generation a little safer world. I've got a saying that describes my efforts. The best I can do is the best I can do, and I will. This brings us to the end of another edition of Addiction. Got a minute? I wish you warm breezes and clear sailing.